So why is it in the United States we work so many hours? Well, stick around because in this video, I'm going to share with you why I think that is and what a potential solution should be. Hey everybody, it's Brian from A Life After Layoff, and today I want to share with you my thoughts on the 40-hour work week that's traditional and commonplace here in the United States, and why we can't look at a different model. If I've learned anything in the last year and a half of making this channel, it's that people in general are pretty dissatisfied with work. Now, there's a lot of reasons why people are so dissatisfied at work. A lot of people are really stressed out with the type of work that they're doing. Others are simply in jobs that they're just not passionate about, and other people are stuck in jobs that are low paying and don't have a lot of career growth. So people are stressed out, they lack motivation, and they work too many hours for their meager wages. That's exactly why I created this channel, is to give people the tools necessary to escape that lifestyle and try to build something different. Listen, I read the comments, I sense the frustration, and I totally get where you're coming from because I feel the same way in a lot of regards as well. It is a broken aspect of our society. The way that we have been culturally conditioned to accept the workplace as it is not healthy for most people. And I don't know how we got to the point where working 40 plus hours a week and not taking paid time off or not taking your vacations has become almost an acceptable way of life, because a lot of other parts of the world do it a lot better than we do. And I think what is happening, especially with regard to the Great Resignation, is people are getting stretched so thin and they're so worn out by the way work is approached in general that they just want to leave it all behind. But before we get too far into it, if you're interested in more videos just like this one, directly from a corporate recruiter, about my thoughts on the labor market in general and how we approach work, consider hitting that subscribe button. But if you don't feel like giving me a sub, find a smaller YouTuber that you like and give them the support, because every little bit helps support these channels and gets them started. So what's interesting is we've been talking about workplace innovation for a long period of time, whether it's automation, new technology, new tools to help us be more efficient at our jobs. And here we are 50 years later, and the American workforce is working nearly the same, if not more hours than they were in the past. So I sit there and I scratch my head and say, where is all this workplace innovation, and how come it hasn't made our work-life balance any better? Yeah, there might be innovation where we've got devices that we can stay connected and that we can respond in real time, but essentially what all that's done is made us attached to these devices, made us attached to being constantly connected and online, and makes it a lot harder for us to put down the phone, to put down the computer, to put down the emails and walk away and spend time truly living our lives. Because all this connectivity is essentially just leading to a giant burnout. And I'm convinced that's one of the major causes for the Great Resignation that we're experiencing. People are simply fed up and done with this type of work arrangement. And there's a reason why channels dedicated to self-help, side hustles are also popular, as people want to get out of this rat race. And as I've dived into this research, I've come across some pretty startling things. And did you know that burnout is so common that it is now an officially diagnosable condition according to the International Classification of Diseases, which makes sense considering Americans generally work 16% longer hours than their European counterparts. Not to mention, there's also a culture of being afraid to take your vacation time and not stepping away from your computer and fully shutting things down. We all feel the obligation to check our email that one last time before we go to bed, or accept phone calls and text messages from our bosses over the weekends, which is essentially a toxic work environment. But sadly, that's become too commonplace, and we as a culture have allowed that to happen. And maybe in a way, that's how people are pushing back on the collective mindset of work, 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 and never having time to recharge. Now, I know that there's also work-life balance issues in other countries, but this mindset of working until you hit the point of exhaustion, is it cultural conditioning? Where did that cultural conditioning start, and why do we accept it? What does your average worker stand to gain from this inequity? Because we all know what the company stands to gain from getting as much productivity out of a single person as they possibly can. So there has been a movement, although I'm not sure how strong of a movement that you could say, but at least it's being introduced, is this concept of a 32-hour work week being the standard. Now, it was introduced in California by Congressman Mark Takano, but what he did is introduce legislation to reduce the US national standard work week from 40 hours to 32. So essentially what that means is that the work week would be reduced to 32 hours, but you would still be paid the same. So that would give you 4 reasonable work days and 3 days of leisure. So why should companies consider doing a 32-hour work week? There's been a lot of studies done, and there's a lot of benefits as to why companies should seriously consider this. For example, and the most obvious one is that there's going to be a better work-life balance for the employee. When you have 4 days to work and 3 days to recharge, you're automatically getting an additional 7 weeks of paid time off throughout the year. And having a better work-life balance issue is going to reduce the amount of turnover. It's going to keep people more energized and more engaged in their work, which leads to higher job satisfaction. Because when they have that time off and they don't feel like they're always working up against deadlines, they have enough time to recharge and refresh, they're able to come in and be more positive about their work situation. They're able to be more productive. There's also increased efficiency because if we're still fitting 40 hours worth of productivity into 32 hours, we have to figure out ways to reduce the excess waste. So it forces the employee and the employer to start to look at inefficiencies in how they conduct business and find ways to improve productivity in a more proactive way. And it's also going to hold managers accountable to being more efficient with how they manage their staffs. But at the end of the day, you're going to be increasing morale, reducing turnover, and you'll see less people taking sick time because they'll have the ability to manage their schedules in a more efficient manner. You're obviously still going to have employers resistant to that change because let's face it, most employers are worried about squeezing as much productivity out of each employee as they possibly can. But here's a few ways that companies can approach improving efficiency. Get rid of the countless wasteful meetings that we all have to sit in each and every week. Get rid of the process bloat that makes us inefficient, and get rid of the distracting group messaging forums that suck our time. If employers can find ways to reduce the wasteful activities that are so commonplace in today's workforce, you won't notice any drop in productivity and you'll get all the benefits associated with it. Now, according to Sally Clark on an article she wrote on medium.com, she claims that there are already some companies that are doing this experiment and doing it successfully. For example, we've got Microsoft in Japan, which has historically been a country that doesn't have a great work-life balance. And when they implemented this 4-day work week, they found an actual 40% increase in productivity. Then there's also the Perpetual Garden, which is a New Zealand real estate planning firm whose owner now has switched over to this model. There's a whole article that you can read about it, and I'll leave the link for this article you can check out yourself. But they basically implemented a 4-day work week and have noticed a massive amount of returns on it, and now they're a proponent globally for this new work model. Steak Shack has also experienced a recruitment spike as a result of switching to a 4-day work week model. And then there's countries as a whole like Spain, Iceland, New Zealand, Scotland, Japan are testing this 4-day work week to see if it actually works. So I'd be really curious to see how it pans out, what the statistics are of productivity and profitability, which is probably the most important metric for these companies, to see if we can implement it or that it's going to spread to the broader industry. But there are some important things that companies need to do if they move to a 32-hour work week. You can't go in and start cutting people's salary. You can't have a situation where you no longer trust people to do the job efficiently. And manage individual performance and not assume that everybody is going to be inefficient. Who knows, maybe one of the advantages that'll come out of the Great Resignation period that we're experiencing will be that there are some changes in how we approach work in general. One can only hope. Hey, let me know your thoughts. If you think that working a 32-hour work week would be beneficial to you and still being able to maintain the productivity standards that companies would expect, leave a comment below and let me know. And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. It really does help the algorithm get this out to a broader audience and helps me continue bringing you great content. Appreciate you watching. We'll see you on the next one.